You might not know it, but I happen to be a mind reader, because I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking this guy would look better with hair, and you're thinking he's older than dirt. Now let me clue you in on a couple things. First of all, I wasn't better looking when I had hair, and secondly, I am older than dirt. Okay, so what could I possibly tell you guys that you need to hear, that you need to know? And when Jared first asked me to speak it's been a couple months ago now, I guess. And right away, my mind went to, I'm kind of busy and I got all these things going on, and all of a sudden the excuses popped up in my head. And he said, because we're going through Psalms and we're going to be looking at Psalm 139, okay? And I was in. I went from, I went from no way to, yeah, I'm there. Because Psalm 139, anybody who's been around it for a while, like my age, the other old guys or like the pastors, and that if anybody mentions Psalm 139, they think of me. Because Psalm 139 is my answer for everything. It really is. And I think you'll find out that it's not just for the old guys like me. These are truths that will help you all through life, where you're at right now, when you get to high school, when you get in college, when you get married, and when you have kids, or your kids leave the home, and you get beyond me. Psalm 139 can anchor you through all areas of life. And I believe it so much that I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. $20, okay? If at the end of tonight, I'm going to hang around when you're doing the small groups, whatever, and if at the end of the night, you can think of a situation that Psalm 139 doesn't answer. If you think of struggle-type situation, Psalm 139 doesn't answer. Whoever's first gets $20, okay? So that's your challenge. So be listening so you know how to beat me on that, all right? You ever been scared? There's different kind of scared. This is one kind of scared. This is a fight. Yeah. You think he's cute? You kidding me, right? No. See, I was a UPS man for several years. I got bit several times, and I had a dog like that wanted to kill me once, and if I turned my back on him, I'm sure he would have killed me if he could have. The only thing, I was swinging at him and yelling at him as I was walking backwards, and he was set on killing me, okay? That's one kind of scared. That's fight or flight. You either fight or you run, okay? That's that kind of scared. There's another kind of scared. It's much more serious. It's when we're scared down to the bottom of our souls, when things hurt, when friends disappoint us, when family, when our parents disappoint us, when people important in our life, or somebody dies, or all these crazy things that happen in this life. That's a different kind of scared. That's the kind of scared that Psalm 139 answers. See, I experienced this a few years ago, and it might sound silly to you, but it wasn't silly to me. I'm going to put you in my situation and let you think how you would feel in that time. Okay? So, as some of you know, some of us from church have went over to Togo, Africa a few times. And I've been over there 3 times. And the second time I was over there, I had quite an experience on the way home. Because, Togo is kind of a different place. You get your ticket at the ticket counter, and they staple it together, and you seriously walk over that door, and they pull it apart and take one half, and you take one half, and you get on the plane, all right? That's how it should work. Well, I'm thinking, it's pretty stupid. You staple it here, and you pull it apart there. So I didn't do like everybody else. I didn't pull my staple apart. I just handed them both sheets. And so what did they do? They had me step aside. As everybody else that I was with from church gave them their ticket, got on the plane. As everybody else who I didn't know came and gave them their ticket and got on the plane, and I'm the one standing there. I was kind of scared. more than the dog kind of scared, actually. Because I'm in a country where I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody there speaking English, okay? I got no money. Because you don't want Togoese money going home. You make sure you spend it before you leave it because it's not good anywhere else, okay? So I got no money. I don't speak the language. The only thing that I knew at all was that we went by the U.S. Embassy where maybe I could get help. But I wasn't quite sure how to get back there. It wasn't too far. But the week before, there was an attack on the ambassador's car, and his driver was shot. So it's not necessarily a friendly place. So that's where I find myself. And I'm not sure why I'm standing there. All I know is I want to get on that plane. And I can't get on it because they won't let me. Okay? Psalm 139 addresses those kind of issues. And as we read it, you can follow along in your Bible if you have it, or else this is my translation. I didn't write it. But what I did is I took all the different translations of this passage, and I picked out the verses that I think best illustrate what the author's trying to say. And he starts out saying, "O Lord, you examine me and know. You know when I sit down or rise up. You know my every thought when far away. You scrutinize my path and my lying down and are intimately acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You both precede me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to know. You know, I like how this passage starts out. And in the original language, it just says, you've examined me and know. And in most of your translations, it'll say something like, you examine me and you know everything about me, or you know. It just, God knows. He just knows it all. God just plain knows. You know, you look down through time, and there have been a lot of smart people in this world. Anybody recognize who this guy is? Albert Einstein. He's got really cool hair, doesn't he? Yeah, I got to admit, I'm kind of jealous of that. Yeah. So, can you tell me some of his what's the deal on Albert Einstein? What's some of his things he came up with? Anybody know? What? E equals mc squared. Do you know that is the most recognized equation in all of the world? E equals mc squared. What else did he do? Anybody know? Just yell it out. I can't. Okay. Okay. A lot of things he's involved in. Okay. Theory of relativity is one of the things. Theory of relativity and the theory of quantum mechanics. Those are two things that modern physics are built upon. And when you get in high school and college, it's going to make your head hurt when you even try to contemplate those kind of things, all right? Just a brilliant man. Although an interesting story about him was later on in life, one day, somebody called, he taught at the Institute of Advanced Studies. It was kind of related with Princeton, but not really part of Princeton. But anyway, he called them and said, could you tell me where Albert Einstein lives? They said, sir, we can't give out that kind of information. And this person said, no, I really need to know where Albert Einstein lives. He says, sir, I told you, we don't give out information about our faculty. He says, no, you don't understand. I'm Albert Einstein, and I don't know where I live. He was a genius, but yet he didn't know where he lived towards the end of his life. So, and he had people just walk around and just write down everything brilliant he said, because he might just say something and then just move on to the next thing, not even realizing what he just said. Okay, a brilliant man. Now, you might recognize him, but do you recognize this one? Might be. Who said that? Good job. Good job. Nikola Tesla, okay? So what's the deal at Nikola Tesla? See what we got going on here right now? We got lights. We have electricity, AC current. Remember, who's his opponent? Do you remember? Edison, right. Edison wanted DC current, which doesn't go well over lines. Tesla was AC current, and he was working on crazy stuff. I mean, back at the turn of the century, and I'm talking last century, early 1900s, he was looking at wireless communication. I mean, they didn't have telephones yet. He was looking at the possibility of sending electricity through the air without wires. And it seems as though if you really look into him a little bit, he was kind of getting some of this stuff down. A lot of people think he died because he was assassinated because he was working on a death ray in which energy could be focused and hit somebody on the other side of the world. And there's some kind of crazy stuff that maybe in some testing, maybe something happened like that. But just a crazy, brilliant man. But compared to God, who knows? Completely ignorant. Nothing like God. See, God knows when you sit down and rise up. That's the easy thing. I mean, we can all observe that, But God knows it about everybody in the world. He knows what they're doing right now. He knows every one of your thought right now. That you're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, what you're going to do tonight. You're going to think of that guy who really isn't so bad looking without hair. God knows all those thoughts that you're thinking right now. Not only that, he says he scrutinizes my path. Am I lying down? He's talking about if you go on a vacation, if you're traveling somewhere, God scrutinizes that. He knows where you're going. He knows every detail. He knows every rock that you're going to walk on. Okay? And he's intimately acquainted with all my ways. Not only that, even before a word is on your tongue, he knows that what you're going to say. I have that problem the older I get. I just can't think of the name, or I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, and it's just there on the tip of my tongue, and I can't say it. Well, you know what? God knows that word on the tip of my tongue and every other word that I say before I even say it. That's the God we have. I could get a little emotional here, because this is pretty cool stuff here. Are you ready for this one? He says, you both precede and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Now, I want you to get a picture of this for a second. If God is preceding me, he's going before me, right? If God is following me, he's behind me. And if his hand is on my head, then tell me this. What can come into my life without it first coming through God's hands? Not a single thing. You will never face a single thing in this life that was not allowed by God. That did not come through the hands of one who loves you more than you love yourself. And that's pretty crazy because we pretty much love ourselves. But God loves you more. God loves you even more than that. He goes before you. He goes behind you. And he places his hand of blessing on your head. And like the psalmist, he says, such a knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to know. How can you understand a God like that? It's difficult. And I need to wipe my eyes. We go on. Well, first of all, before we go on, when I was there in the airport, and I'm not allowed to get on the plane, I was thinking about these things. Because, see, I'd been teaching these things all week to the other guys that went with me, because the year before I was ready to go, I was kind of at my wit's end. I had made some changes in my life, and just it wasn't going the way I wanted to go, and just really felt sometimes almost like I couldn't breathe, is really how I felt. And one morning, when I got to work, before I went in, I was sitting in my car, and I opened my Bible, just by chance, to Psalm 139. And I read it. There's still even more wonderful things we're going to get to. But it gripped me. And some tears started coming down my face as I recognized this God who's interested in me, who knows me and still loves me. Such an amazing thought. And I had to remind myself of that when I was in the airport. That, yeah, I want to be on that plane only like 100 feet away, but I'm right here. God knows I'm right here. So I got to be okay with that. Because if it wasn't okay, God wouldn't allow it in his hands. He wouldn't allow that to sift through his hands into my life. We go on, and we see, where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee to escape your presence? In verse 8, if I go to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the place of the dead, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest sea, even there your hand will guide me, and your right hand shall hold me. So we see not only does God know, but God's there. When I was in Togo, I was glad God was there, that he wasn't just a God of the United States, but he was the God of Togo as well, and that God was there with me. The psalmist, as he's penning these words here, he's really painting a picture of the enormity of God. He said, if I go up to heaven, he's picturing as high as I could possibly go. That's before they had space shuttles or airliners or whatever, and he's thinking, man, if I could just zoom up into the sky as far as I could go, God's there. Or if I go down, descend down to the place of the dead, God's there too. And he says, if I ride the wings of the morning. Anybody know what the wings of the morning are? Here's what it is right here. It's 186,000 miles per second, a little faster than I could do on my motorcycle, all right? 186,000 miles per second. And what is that? Speed of light, right. That's how fast light goes. That's what he's referring to, when he talks about the ride the wings of the morning. Now, I don't know. I don't really like to get up early. Every once in a while I have to, okay? Like if I'm going turkey hunting, that's exciting. But, I'm not really a morning person. I'd rather stay up at night and not be such a morning person. But if I do get up in the morning, it's it's a clear morning. When that light comes up, it just shoots across the sky. That's the idea. If when that light came up, if you just shoot across the sky, 106,000 miles per second, just like light, and you went to the other side of the ocean, actually you could go there and back several times in that second. But if you could go that fast, you know what you find when you get there? God's there. You go up, he's there. You go down, he's there. You go either direction, he's there. God's everywhere. Even more amazing than that. The next line. Even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand shall hold me. Doesn't matter where you go. You can't escape his presence. No matter where you go in this world, in this universe, beyond, there is nowhere that God is not. God's there. And that should be comforting to you. It is to me. There are those who try to run from God's presence. You think of some of those people, like Jonah. Remember, he got on a ship to Tarshish to try to run from God's presence, run away from God's will in his life. And that didn't work out so well. Unless you like being vomited out by a fish. The whole thing of vomit, that's just disgusting. You think about that, And it was bleached white from the acids in it and everything. That's crazy stuff. Or you think of Elijah, who didn't run from God, but ran from a woman, Jezebel. After he did this great and mighty thing that you're going to find in your life, many times you're going to do something great for God. or something that seems great for you, God, at least as you look at it, and it probably is. And you're going to find right on the heels of it depression and discouragement. Like Elijah, he just slaughtered the prophets of Baal and sent down fire from heaven, called down fire from heaven and consumed this altar was soaked in water, okay? Doesn't get much cooler than that. And what does he do right on the tail of that? He runs and he hides from Jezebel, who threatens his life. And he's found in a cave. And there's a storm brewing outside, and if you read the passage, it says Elijah didn't hear God in the storm. But there was a gentle breeze, and he heard God say, Elijah, what are you doing here? There's times in your life when God's going to say, what are you doing here? With all the advantages you have in life, what are you doing here? But the thing is, in those moments, God's still there. He's still there. That's why he's there saying, what are you doing here? You don't need to be here. Come with me. And he's holding your hand, and he's guiding you. We go on in verse 11, it says, I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night. But even in the darkness I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are both alike to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. So we see that God knows, God's there, and God sees. Even in the dark, God can see. You know, as a youngster, I enjoyed playing hide and go seek, and then I learned about hide and go seek in the dark. You know, a whole nother, I know, boring, but, you know, it was cool to me at the time. And it added a whole new dimension to the game because, you know, obviously, it may this way it always works. I've forgotten, you know, because I am old. But when you play in the dark, at least the way we used to play it, you know, there's always a home base, and if you could, you know, you'd see them, we know where they'd come out and try to find you, and you'd run back to home base, and you were safe. They couldn't get you. You know, maybe, you know, I'm kind of jealous because I know Underground Church is pretty cool, and I never got to play that, and I really don't even know what it's all about, but I know it's a cool thing. Something like that, probably. But, you know, a lot of people are afraid of the dark. Why are people afraid of the dark? Now, none of you would be afraid of the dark, I get it, but why would other people be afraid of the dark? Why do you think? Just yell out. They're not afraid of the dark, they're afraid of what's in it, or what might be in it. They're afraid of the unknown. That's what makes the dark so scary. Amen. We're told in Scripture, love darkness rather than light because their deeds are evil. A lot of people do evil stuff in the dark, okay? That's the truth. And a lot of people do evil stuff because it's dark and they think nobody sees them. But you know who sees them? God. Dark doesn't hide. Dark doesn't hide you. Even the darkness cannot hide from you. Night shines as bright as day in the dark, you know? No way to hide from God. And not only that, not only does the darkness not hide you, but as you're being formed inside, you know, before they had ultrasounds and all those stuff where they could see the baby kicking around, all that, you know, God could still see the baby being formed in the womb. And he knew that baby being formed in the womb. There's a little person in there. And the psalmist says very, very, very clearly, I will praise you for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, see, we take so much for granted. You know, we have hands that go like this, you know, and eyes that see and ears that hear, for the most part. Some don't. But for the most part, we do. And we have a lot of abilities, and you know, we can run and we can jump and all those crazy things. But all that it takes to make that happen, even just like, what is sight when you think about it? You know, that we can see because of all the optic nerves and all the craziness that goes on. Let me tell you, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. When you get to studying all that and see how it all works, and if just one little thing was wrong, it wouldn't work. But guess what? God did it, and it works. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. It says, and God knows that. But he goes on to say, and now it's getting even to better stuff if that's possible. Your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book they are all written, the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there was not one of them. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God? They're innumerable. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake in the morning, you're still with me. You see, God knows, God's there, God sees, and God plans. And as we look at this, now verse 16 is the only verse that I did not pick the easiest verse to understand. And that's because verse 16 is one of the first verses I ever memorized out of this passage. and it was very meaningful to me. And so I left that the way that I like it. And so let me explain it to you because it seems kind of weird. He says, your eyes have seen my unformed substance. So he's talking about when that child is first getting developed, okay? I mean, just in the very first stages, we get hands and feet and everything pretty early on. But even before that, just in the very early stages, it says, God saw me. And what does it say he did? It says, and in your book, they were all written. Like, wait a minute. So God saw me, and it says, and in your book, they were all written. Well, what was written there? It says, the days that were ordained for me. But it gets cooler than that. When as yet, there was not one of them. Okay? So while we're still in the womb, just being formed in that very early stages, it says that God has a baby book. Do people still do baby books? That's somewhat probably fading. I mean, because now you got, you put it on a flash drive or whatever. Back in the day, you used to have baby books, and it said like baby's first word, baby's first food, baby's first dirty diaper. Well, maybe not dirty diaper, but baby's first everything, pretty much. Okay, and so God has a baby book, but it goes beyond. I guess if we're believers, I guess we're all His children. So it's more of a child book, okay? Because we're children all through the life as His children. But in His book, in the book He has for us, it says all of our days are written before one of them came into being. So, you know why I'm here tonight? Because it's in God's book. You know why you're here tonight? Because it's in your copy of God's book for you. Okay? And as I stood there in Togo in the airport, I had to remind myself of that. Okay? This is the day that God ordained for me. This is what He has for me on this day. So I can do one of two things. My knees can knock together and I can be fearful. And it wasn't that I still wasn't fearful, just anxious. But there's a very calm assurance that comes. Once again, when you know that God goes before you, He goes behind you, and He places His hand of blessing on your head. And the day you're experiencing right now is the day that God has planned for you. Okay? And I took comfort in that. Because even though, and maybe I'm going wild in my imaginations here, but you hear about people that go to foreign countries and they don't come back, You hear about people that go to China and they pull a poster off the wall and they end up dying and they don't come back, okay? I don't know. Togo's kind of crazy, all right? I mean, the last cop I saw was trying to get any money left that I had in case I had some left before I got on the airport, on the airplane. He did speak a couple words, money, But, you go to they don't give you nothing in Togo. You go to the bathroom in the airport, there's somebody there to hand you out squares of toilet paper for money, okay? They don't give you nothing, okay? So I'm in a country where they don't give me nothing. I don't speak the language. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to see my family again. I don't know why I can't get on the airplane, okay? But here's what I know. That was the day God ordained for me. And in that moment, that was enough. That was enough in that hard moment I found myself in. But it goes beyond that. Because this is the verse 17 is the verse that brought tears to my eyes. I sat in the parking lot before I went to work that morning. Because it says, how precious are your thoughts about me, O God? They are innumerable. You want to hear something crazy? That's really profound. You got to hold on your seats here. God thinks about me. God thinks about me. I'm not worthy to God think about me, but He thinks about me. We're talking about the God who spoke and worlds came into existence. That God thinks about me. He doesn't just know me. He doesn't just know about me. He thinks, what do you think about? You think about things that are important to you. You think about things you love. And God thinks about me. You want to get the next crazy thing? He thinks about you as well. Just like He thinks about me. You understand the God I'm talking about? In Isaiah 40, this is what it says about this God. It says, who has measured the waters in the hollow of His hands? Now, obviously, God is spirit. And they're using these terms to help you understand God, if He was human, what it would look like. It says, if God were human, all the waters of the world would be measured right here in the palm of His hand. Okay? And He marked off the heaven by a span. You know what the span is? It's the distance between your little finger, and your thumb. About 8.5 inches, 9 inches of most adult males. okay? And God measured off the heavens as he's laying it out with the span of his hand. You know how close the nearest star is? Anybody even know what it is? It's Alpha Centauri A. It's 4.3 light years, 4.36 actually, something, light years away. So if you were to go at 186,000 miles per second, it would take you 4.3 years to get there. And it says God measured out the heavens with a span. Okay? He calculated the dust of the earth by the measure and weighed the mountains in a balance and the hills in a pair of scales. Who's directed the Spirit of the Lord? Who's been a counselor and has informed him? With whom did he consult? Who gave him understanding? And who taught him the path of justice and taught him knowledge and informed him the way of understanding? Obviously, the answer is no one. Behold, the nations like a drop from a bucket. You know, when I was a kid, we had some ducks and geese and a pony, chickens. And I used to have to take this little galvanized metal pail. You know what happens to a galvanized metal pail? It's full of cold water on a hot day. It builds condensation on the outside. And those little drops will start running down the outside and drip off. Now, it didn't lessen the content in the bucket at all. The bucket still had the same amount because this was condensation on the outside. It says that's what the nations are like. It's like a drop off a bucket, and it doesn't lessen God. He's still the same. And they're regarded as specks of dust. Behold, he lifts up islands like fine dust. How do you lift up fine dust? Look at that. You know, tip your tongue and pick it up. Even Lebanon, which was known for its forests, even Lebanon is not enough to burn, nor beast enough for burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are regarded by him as less than nothing and meaningless. To whom then will you liken God? I like this next part. Or what will you liken or compare him with? As for an idol, okay, now, so you don't have God, so if you don't have God, you got an idol. So he says, as for the idol, a craftsman casts it, so you're making it out of metal. A goldsmith plates it with gold. A silversmith fashions chains of silver. He who is too impoverished for such an offering selects a tree that does not rot. Because after all, wouldn't it be embarrassing if your God rotted? I mean, how silly would that be? If your God gets foot rot, you know, and it crumbles. It says he seeks out for himself a skilled craftsman to prepare an idol that will not totter. And there again, if he doesn't make a flat on the bottom, you know, you got friends over and they kick the coffee table and your God falls off the coffee table. How embarrassing would that be? You know, that'd be terrible. But in verse 21 it says, do you not know? Have you not heard? Has it not been declared to you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he who sits above the circle of the earth, and inhabitants are like grasshoppers, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. He it is who reduces rulers to nothing, who makes the judges of the earth meaningless. Scarcely have they been planted, scarcely have they been sown, scarcely has their stock taken root in the earth, but he merely blows on them, and they wither, and the storm carries them away like stubble. To whom then will you liken me, that I would be his equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes on high and see who has created these stars. And he goes on talking about that he knows them all by name, and because of that, none of them are missing. Okay? That is the God who thinks about me. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. You know, I think sometimes we don't really get the whole importance of salvation because we know that Christ died for all the world. Okay? Well, wouldn't it be a bigger deal if he just died for me? You know, I mean, after all, if he died for everybody, that's not quite as cool as if he just died for me, right? You know, I mean, after all, I'm just one of many, all right? But we don't understand it because, see, God thinks about you, and he loves you. And because of that, he sent his son to die for you because he thinks about you. How important that is. And he goes on and say, how many thoughts does he have about me? I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand. And when I wake in the morning, you're still with me. You know, you can't go anywhere where you can't find him. And when you get up in the morning, he's still there. He never goes on vacation. He never leaves. He's always there. No one compares to God. And he thinks about me. And he thinks about you. So back to the airport. Everybody's on the plane, and I'm standing there by the ticket counter, just wanting to go out the door. Seriously, it's like, the crazy thing is, you step out, you get on a bus, it takes you like 100 feet because some other nation gave them a bus. So you got to get on their bus to get out there, you know. And I'm just thinking, I just want to get out and run to the plane. And, you know, and my friends, they were making jokes as they're walking by me, not really realizing how serious a situation it was, you know. And then when I don't come, they started feeling a little bad. So everybody's on the plane. I mean, it's still like another 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm thinking, that plane's going to take off at any time now. And up walk 3 gentlemen. And they kind of make it known to me that they want me to follow them. So I step out the door towards the airport, towards the airplane, but I turned this way, and I walked down the face of the airport, the terminal. And I'm walking away from the plane. And it's scary. And I think, God, are you here? You tell me you're here. I need to know that. And we walk through a door in this little hallway and walk through another door and a third door. And here we have an x-ray machine for the luggage. And there's my luggage sitting on the floor. I think, okay, what now? And I'm thinking, obviously, I've done something wrong. I've got something in there I shouldn't have. I don't have a clue what it is, but there's something in there that's keeping me from getting on that plane. And it's a little scary right now. I don't know what's in there. And so they're not really able to communicate with me. So finally, I just get down, I open my suitcase, and when I do that, they kind of jump back. It was really kind of hilarious. And so I open it, and I'm trying to move things around so they can see, because I don't know what it is they want. And finally, I found what it was they wanted. Because you see, when I was there the previous time, there was a sport drink called Sportif, kind of like Gatorade there. It's made in Togo. And so there were 6 people that went the first time. They didn't go the second time. So I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to bring them all back a bottle of Sportif? But how do you bring back glass bottles in an airplane where, it's going through, a couple terminals, it's going to get thrown around, it's going to get broke? Well, I know. What we did was we had to take most of the food we're going to eat for those 2 weeks over there with us because, you can only eat so many rice and chicken necks and that kind of stuff, and actually they're happy to have rice and chicken necks, to tell you the truth. They would take whatever we had left, the bones from our chicken, and the cook would take them home and cook them and feed them to her family, the bones, okay? So we got it pretty good here in the States. But we had Pringles. We had cans of Pringles. So I thought, what a brilliant thing. I'm going to take the Pringle cans after they're empty, put a bottle of Sportif in them, tape off the top, good to go. So when they examine my luggage through the x-ray machine, what do they see? They see 6 metal cylinders because there's foam, there's tinfoil inside of the Pringles can. So I see 6 metal cylinders, okay? Now, while I was there also, I was welding. So I took an electronic protractor with me, which was next to the 6 cylinders. So now what do they see? They see 6 metal cylinders with an electronic device on the side. To them, it looks like a bomb. And I look like a terrorist, okay? And so when I start moving this stuff and they see it, because I had it buried in inside my clothes, and when they first see it, they kind of jump back, because it still looks kind of scary. And one of the tops had already, from their poor handling, it had already popped out, and a little bit of the top was sticking out. And so I could see them looking, so I pull out the bottle so they can see it. Well, then they go from terror to disgust. Then they're disgusted with me, just instantly. And I think, I might be okay now. So I'm thinking, good, I can get up and go on the plane. I start to grab my luggage. No, they won't let me take my luggage. But they did take me over to another part of the airport where I just had to stand for another 5 minutes and look, while a taxi came, which was a car, and take me the 100 feet to the airplane. I got on the airplane, everybody clapped, and I was relieved. But the thing was, that whole 2 weeks before there, every night I taught on a section of Psalm 139. And God was saying to me, let me show you what Psalm 139 really looks like. Do you really believe me? Do you really trust me? Do you really know that I'm everywhere? Do you really know that I'm concerned about you, that I care about you, that I'm scrutinizing your path? And the answer was yes. I found that out, and I learned it. And I was okay with it. We go on, a few more verses. In verse 19, it says, "Oh God, if only you would destroy the wicked. Get out of my way, you murderers. They blaspheme you. Your enemies take your name in vain. O Lord, shouldn't I hate those who hate you? Shouldn't I despise those who resist you? Yes, I hate them with complete hatred, for your enemies are my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life." And clearly the psalmist there was saying he hates the things that God hates. But then at the end, he just basically repeats the obvious. God already says that he examines us and knows. And so he's basically saying, I'm okay with that. He says, search me, O God, and know my heart. Can you say that? You see, I see all your smiling little faces out there. Now see, you can think I'm an old guy, so I can think you're little, okay? That's how it works. It's a trade-off, okay? And, your parents think how sweet you are and everything, but here's what I know about you. Your heart is ugly. Because you're born with the same conditions as everybody else. You got an ugly heart. You're born that way. It doesn't make any difference. Your heart's ugly. Can you say to God, search me and know my heart? The things that I think I'm hiding from you in the dark, the things I think that you don't see, the things that I do with my friends because it's cool and I want to fit in. God sees those things. Do you say, search me, God? No. Test my anxious thoughts. The anxious thoughts are the nervous things we worry about. You know, like, am I going to find a boyfriend? Am I going to find a girlfriend? Am I going to get married? Am I going to have kids? You know, am I going to go to college? What am I going to do for life? I remember those things. They're pretty scary. God knows those thoughts. You know what? He's guiding you. He's got your hand. You're going to go through those things one way or the other. It just depends. Are you going to trust God, who cares about you, who thinks about you, who loves you? Or are you going to do it your own way, which never ends up good? And then he says, point out me anything that offends you and lead me along the path of everlasting life. That's what I hope for you tonight. It may sound like it's grand words when I say this is the thing that will lead you for life. But if you'll take this to heart, Psalm 139, remember it, write it down. Psalm 139, because the tough times will come. People will disappoint you in ways that are going to hurt you deeply. But the fact is, there's still a God who goes before you, he goes behind you, and he places his hand as blessing on your head. And that could be the thing that makes the difference. That could be the thing that comforts you and makes you realize that even though I'm in a situation I don't like, it's all right because God's here with me, and God's allowed this to my life for my good and his glory. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the privilege, Lord, and I do count it a privilege of speaking to this group tonight, Lord. I just pray that they caught parts of it at least, into who you are. There's nothing more important than understanding your greatness, how big you are, and yet how you come down to us and love us. Such an amazing thought. And Lord, I pray that everybody here would experience your love in your salvation, Lord, that they'd recognize that you loved them so much that you sent your son to die for them. And they would accept that by faith. And Lord, then that they would go on to live their life in recognition of who you are, a great and awesome God who loves us, who thinks about us, who guides us, who leads us, who protects us, and to whom we should say, search me, O God, know my heart, and lead me along your path. And I just pray these things in Christ's name, amen.